You guys slay me with your humor.
Yeah, mascot boy? Laugh at this.
Hey guys, my name is Alex. Welcome to my channel. So you might be wondering, why is this channel called Everything But the Bagel? Well, I myself am a Trader Joe's employee, and I thought it would be a cute title considering where I work. Plus, on this channel, I'm going to talk about everything from food to fitness, to fashion, to fun entertainment stuff. I want this channel to be a little bit of everything, without the actual bagel. So if you're into that, then please consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me, and I appreciate everyone's support. But anyway, I want to jump into the actual content of this video. Degrassi. Degrassi is the most iconic teen drama. You couldn't change my mind, okay? You have to go watch it for yourself. So I want to start off by explaining my personal experience with Degrassi. So I had a very healthy relationship with the show. Just kidding. I was kind of borderline obsessed, definitely hooked. So I'm currently in the middle of a Degrassi rewatch. I've been watching with my partner and we're currently in the middle of season 12. It's really interesting to watch the show now as an adult in my mid-20s versus me as a teenager or even as a kid. When the show first came out, it was October 14th, 2001. I was 5, so I wasn't watching Degrassi yet. But by the time I was 10, I was perfectly aligned with the original cast of season 1. So you guys, I have a lot of love for Degrassi. And I think there's a number of reasons this show really stuck with me. Like, I truly felt like these were my friends on the screen in a weird way. Since I was 10 when I started watching, as I aged, the cast aged too. And I felt like I was growing up with them all through middle and high school. The characters on the show are imperfect, but they're really charismatic and human. Even the most irritating characters become redeemable. Well, most of the characters. Derek didn't exactly grow on me, but most of them do. And they become the best and most authentic version of themselves. This is what Degrassi does so well. They capture the growth of their characters. There could be someone that you think is the worst character, and by the time they're at their graduation point on the show, you're going to be their #1 fan. This show is not afraid to go there. If you can think of an issue, they've covered it on Degrassi. I can tell you that much. So we all know that Degrassi was a successful show, but I want to talk about some of the stuff that they may have done behind the scenes to promote the show and to maintain their viewership. One thing Degrassi definitely mastered was the art of having 2-part episodes.
They didn't stop there. Sometimes it was 2, 3, or even 4.
Now I know Degrassi didn't invent the 2-part episode split, but they mastered it. They had the audacity to make some of these episodes 3- and 4-part series. And there were many seasons where almost all the episodes were 2-parters, so it was just never-ending drama.
Back in the day, we had to wait a whole week to get a conclusion to a 2-part episode.
That is a millennium these days because we can literally watch and binge shows overnight. And slightly related but slightly unrelated, it looks like somebody on the team has a thing for Michael Jackson, because looking at the titles in these multiple part episodes, we're definitely getting Michael Jackson vibes. But moving on from that, I want to get into the next thing that Degrassi did that literally stole my heart as a kid, and that's the promos. Now I'm just going to come out and say this. Degrassi had the best promos I've ever seen for a TV show.
Degrassi had one of the best videos of all time.
They made high school look like a dream. And I wanted to go to Degrassi.
Personally, I wouldn't have wanted to deal with that drama at that school. But I love to watch it.
Through these miniature music videos, we were able to get a taste of what was coming next on Degrassi. Just in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I snipped together some of the sequences from the different promos for Degrassi seasons 10, 11, and 12, and I'm going to show you guys that fan-made trailer now. Here goes.
I don't wanna stay here, no. Ain't gonna keep it low. Now, if you wanna go, let's go. Let's wrap it up and hit the road. I just got an awesome vibe. Striking the winner post now. Liberty's on my mind. We've taken off, we've left the ground. You gotta understand that we get one chance, one chance. You will never regret the things that we'll do. 'Cause I wanna drive through the summer night. And when we are old and gray, we'll look back at this summer night.
Well, was it as good as you expected? And did it bring back nostalgia? When they aired these promos live when I was growing up, you would have thought like a huge event was happening. I was so hyped up for it, and these really kept me hooked on the show. Now I know in ways they definitely made high school look more interesting than it actually is. But that's okay. This is TV here. We're not talking about the real world. Now that you've seen the magic, I'm going to move on to my final point of what makes Degrassi stand out so much. And that is, obviously, the characters. I have a list of my top 10 favorite characters. And just for the sake of this video, I'm going to cap them off at season 10. But also for the sake of this video, I want to keep these descriptions of why they're my favorite on the shorter side. So if you guys are interested in a full character analysis and covering all the seasons, I am more than happy to do so, but not in this video. Spinner has the biggest redemption arc of all time. He goes from a kind of goofy, stereotypical jock type character to everyone's favorite on-screen softie. He has a lot of fallouts. He has that homophobic arc with Marco, and on top of that, he loses his best friend because of his actions of bullying another student at the school. He loses his friends and has to work really hard to get them back. And on top of all of that, they gave his character cancer, but he does recover. The only thing I disliked about his character is what they ended up doing with him and Jane's relationship, because everyone knows that Emma and Spinner made absolutely no sense. They could have easily reconciled that couple, but no, they decided to completely just two characters that had nothing to do with each other and to ship them off to their honeymoon. So that's my only gripe, and that's not his fault. We are all rooting for Spinner the longer that we see him on the screen. If I'm being honest, I had a little bit of a crush on him growing up, so that may have influenced my choice of character. Even then and now, I truly appreciate the energy that Ryan Cooley brought to the character.
She's not so sweet, red and round, gross to eat.
He made you want to be JT's friend, and he added a lot of personality to the show. I was honestly the most heartbroken about JT's death on the show because it came out of nowhere. No one expected him to die.
And I know it's because the real actor had to go to college. And that's cool.
But as a viewer, that sucked, and I definitely cried. And even worse, that he was finally with Liberty. and they had to give up their baby, and he died at her birthday. It was honestly just all tragic. But the positive in that was that they did have a really nice memorial for him at the school, and I think it was the first time that the show had covered loss, so it really did have a purpose. Now, by far, she was the most book-smart character on Degrassi. Definitely a high achiever.
Ashley Kerwin, we haven't met. I'm Liberty Vanzant, and I'm running for secretary.
And just for you guys, I have a hot take. Liberty paved the way for the show to create a character like Holly J in a later season. And I say this because Liberty had it all. Liberty was smart, she had every title you could think of, and Holly J is just as ambitious and has a lot of titles too. But Liberty did it first, so yeah. She didn't always get what she wanted, and she was kind of clowned when she was younger for having a crush on JT, but eventually she did get the guy.
I wish I'd done. I've crushed on you for 4 years.
But then they got pregnant, and then they had to give up their baby for adoption, and then she lost the guy. But Liberty still shines. She finds her friends are there for her to lean on when she has to cope with the loss of JT. Liberty definitely shows us that we have to try to get what we want, even if we've never done it before, even if we might feel embarrassed. Because every once in a while, when you step outside of your comfort zone, good things can happen. We all love Marco, and we all don't like Dylan. He deserved better, obviously. He was our sexually confused character, who for a little while ended up dating Ellie, but eventually came around and realized he was gay. He was like a more endearing version of Riley, and Riley is another gay character on the show who is homophobic and self-hating for quite some time. So it's really nice to see Marco turn around and end up being really comfortable in his skin. He actually never really ends up spiraling out and doing anything too crazy. I think the worst thing he did was gambling, and that wasn't as serious compared to all of the other characters on the show. But overall, Marco is a super courageous, kind, sweet character that we all know and love from the show. And did I mention he's smart? Because he's also valedictorian. There's a lot of valedictorians on my list, so maybe I'm just a big fan of all of the really intelligent characters on the show. As soon as I found out that Adam was transgender, I knew they were going to drag his character through hell and back on the show. And his story might not be perfect, but I'm fairly certain that this was the first time in my life that I had watched a teen show that featured a transgender character, and it allowed me to learn a lot about what that community means and to have exposure to it. Adam goes through a lot of bullying in various phases, and he tries his best to fit in and to explain to people what it means.
So remember, if I'm just like you, it's allowed.
You don't know anything about me. I don't care about your stupid junk.
No, you care about being a crybaby until you get the only actual guy on the radio show kicked off. You know, people know you're not a dude, Adam.
Every day, I fight to do the things you do. Like use the guy's bathroom.
So you have a different bathroom, big deal.
Yeah, well, 50 years ago, that sign would have said whites only. Okay, maybe it's not exactly the same, but still, you discriminated against me based on something I didn't choose and can't change.
Overall, I feel like Adam teaches so much about tolerance on the show. I loved seeing Drew and Adam's relationship as siblings on the show. I felt like they had so much genuine love and care for each other. And Adam and Eli, I basically forgot that they weren't brothers because that was how great their connection was. And he's one of the sweetest characters on the show. It's good to see that representation, and I think the show could have taken it a step further by hiring a person who was actually transgender to play the role, but for the time and for what they did, I'm still glad that Adam existed and that this was covered on Degrassi. So here we are with Fiona Coyne. Wow, was she a mess when they first brought her on. You literally would have thought that she and Declan were engaged in some weird twincest, because even during the title sequence on the show, he looks down at her, grabs her hand, and looks into the camera and gives a really strange, eerie smile. I never liked that part of the credits. The time Fiona kissed Declan at that party, that was a huge moment, and it was gross. But time and time again, Fiona is the character to come in and stir the pot with everyone. Even though she's rich, she has to deal with her own fair share of problems. She has to go through an abusive relationship, and she ends up taking the guy to trial, which was a really strong thing for her to do. She also ends up going to rehab and trying to overcome her alcohol addiction, which is another brave thing to do. She falls in love with her best friend, Holly J, which has to be heartbreaking because she knows that Holly J is straight and would never be into her. And it's an interesting development as well, because it's shown that all the other relationships that she was in, she never knew what it felt like to love somebody. And she experiences that with Holly J. She's a really good definition of a character that doesn't quite fit in, but she still stands her ground and, doesn't give up and just go home because she doesn't fit in. She carves a path for herself. Now, Sav may have also made my list because I might have had a crush on him when I was younger. I'm not gonna say whether that influenced me to put him on his list or not, but either way, I really enjoyed seeing his character on the show. He is just a really wholesome, big brother character. One thing that I do think is a little weird on the show is how long him and Anya end up, getting together and breaking up. That plot line gets a little repetitive for me. I don't know, he was just so wholesome. I really liked seeing their family dynamic. I really liked seeing the show focus on some characters that weren't just, the white characters. So that's really good representation as well. Sav's character remains to be a pretty normal guy. Sav finds himself in some pretty strange scandals, like dating his teacher. I mean, that was a crazy arc. Yeah, he just seems like a really good-hearted character that you can't help but root for. On a side note, do you guys see how attractive Raymond A. Black is right now? Like, can we just take a moment to appreciate the man that he's grown into? Okay, now moving on. Oh my gosh, guys, Holly J is a freaking firecracker on this show.
She's my sister. Wait, boyfriend stealing, bad nose job having, puppy drowning, queen of evil is your sister? Taught me everything she knows.
She just bursts in, with her snide comments to people and her I'm gonna rule the school because my sister ruled the school attitude. And you can't help but be at least interested in what makes her character be this mean, but also queen bee status. Like, everyone wanted to be associated with Holly J. If Holly J was gonna ask you to sit at lunch, you were gonna gladly accept. And you were gonna tell all your friends. But on the other end, she didn't have any real friends because she was so mean. So it was really nice to see her arc on the show where they kind of made her a little bit softer, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more compassionate, and way better of a friend, especially to Anya. And when this happens? This is all right around the time where her family actually loses that fortune that they have, and Holly J has to pick up a job like everybody else. She ends up working closely with Spinner, and they develop a great friendship, and she eventually realizes she's in love with him. We first see Holly J as someone who's a little rough around the edges. We start to see who she really can be, and from here out, we love her. Her relationship with Declan was a whirlwind, and I loved seeing that. Everything with Sav, I was kind of secretly rooting for, even though I knew it wasn't gonna work out. But I loved that too. What Holly J teaches us is that we really do have to be vulnerable and open ourselves to being able to have lasting, real relationships with people, whether that's friendships or romantic relationships. My phone is getting to low battery, so I gotta
Speed this up.
Claire. Okay, so Claire I think is kind of an underrated character on the show. She does get a lot of screen time, but I just have this feeling inside that not everybody likes her. But I really liked her. She is kind of a goody two-shoes when she's first introduced, you know, being Darcy Edwards' little sister, but she's completely authentic to herself. Do you guys remember when she went into the cafeteria and Casey and her group of friends were like,
You know, you care too much about what others think.
and she was like,
No, I don't.
and then she went up on stage and she sung her church hymn. She literally does not care how others perceive her. She just wants to be accepted as herself and to be comfortable. Slowly but surely, they do start to chip at her character a little bit, but she still made my list because I think she's a wonderful friend. Claire is the voice of reason on this show, always.
I hate Holly J. I hate her so much. Then ignore her.
Her character has a lot of wisdom for her age. Her advice makes sense, almost too much sense, because she's talking to impulsive teenagers about what they should or shouldn't be doing. And you know, teenagers do what they want. Claire is super intelligent and she's compassionate. She stands up for what she believes in and she tries to be there for her friends through thick and thin. Once she started to get involved with boys, all of her wisdom and her, you know, calm, cool, and collected energy kind of just slowly went out the window. But you know, that's kind of what boys can do sometimes when you're growing up and you're a teenager and you're, you know, very emotional. She had to deal with Eli when he was going off the walls. And you know, that's a lot for someone to deal with, especially at her age.
And her character goes through an even crazier arc later, but I'm not even gonna get into that. We are getting on to the next character.
Alright guys, so unfortunately I ran out of storage, but I still needed to say something about Eli. I love his story so much, and his character evolves rapidly on the show. I actually don't want to spoil it too much, so I'm not going to say much about him. He's broody, he's mysterious, and he definitely has eyes for Claire. So, oh, and his self-discovery arc is unparalleled. That's all I'm going to say. Just go watch the show. Like, just trust me, okay? Guys, I'm feeling so sad right now because I forgot to mention the minis. Between the seasons, there were some mini-series that covered a lot of different stories. They were just kind of like an alternate reality sort of situation for different characters. So I'm actually learning that I might have missed some of those, so I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch them. But if you are gonna watch Degrassi, which I recommend that you do, make sure you don't forget the minis and make sure you grab a friend because this show is way more entertaining to watch with someone. Like me watching this with my partner, half of the fun that I've been having has been reacting to his reactions to the show because they go there. If you've never been exposed to Degrassi before,
Give it a try.
the way you react might be different than you may expect. I hope you guys appreciated this video. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. I spend a lot of time editing and filming for you guys, so it's really great to have any feedback. Let me know if you guys want a part 2 or anything like that. If you want me to cover the worst characters on the show, the worst couples, you know, any feedback you guys have, give it to me in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you later.